Did I win any this year?
Well, you tied for the win with Kelsey.
Did I outright win any?
I've not been paying attention to that, honestly.
I don't think I did.
I don't think so. It's been a lot of guest wins.
There's always next year.
Welcome to Drafted. I'm your host, Daniel Prentice, and as always, I am joined by my good friend and co-host, Preston Thompson. Preston, how are you doing? And what are you drinking tonight, my friend?
I'm doing so good, Dan. Might I say tonight, on this night of nights, you're looking very dapper.
Ooh.
Is that a merch I spy?
Oh, yeah. I finally bit the bullet and ordered my drafted merch. Got my drafted hoodie just in time for hoodie season, I have to say.
It is a
feels great.
It is a Florida State. You don't call it red. What do you call it?
It was garnet. So this is like, they call this maroon. It's not quite Florida State. It's not.
It looks awfully close on Zoom, but
it is pretty
sure
close.
it's not.
But because mostly, I think you wouldn't call it Florida State if the drafted weren't in gold.
Sure.
But yeah, the Florida State color is garnet and gold.
It could pass though if you took it into the stadium. I'd say
for sure. I do look sharp though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes, you do. I am, in honor of our last episode, drinking a hot
Not ever.
toddy.
He means of the season. This is our season review episode.
Our series finale. I'm sailing into the West.
Season finale.
Series finale. Never to be
the British
again.
series, the English series,
the American series. Michael Scott is leaving the program.
How many seasons did they go on for that? At least one.
Another two, I think. But it was never the same. I'm drinking a hot toddy in honor of our season finale, which I feel is only appropriate at this late hour.
Yeah. And we do apologize for this being our last episode. We meant to get one more draft in, but Preston and I just kind of both real busy.
I don't apologize for. We owe them nothing.
Well,
I don't apologize for shit.
Our Patreon supporters, we apologize to you,
yes.
And you alone.
They're going to eventually see us completely degrade ourselves by drinking masterpieces of our own creation. From the cocktail episode. So
we will be
got that to look forward
to. Now, at the end of the year, we'll still be doing our holiday specials for everyone, and I think we will do some exclusive Patreon content over there to show a special piece of gratitude for our Patreon supporters, who we love dearly.
I think Daniel said for Patreon, we're going to do a full watch through live of the Lord of the Rings films.
We could do it.
10.5 hours just for Patreon subscribers.
We could do that.
So, listen. Don't have to ask me twice. I watched those 2 months ago, and I'd be more than happy to sit down and watch them again, especially now that the TV show's running.
Oh yeah, are you liking the show?
Yeah, I am. I don't actually understand all the people that say it's not very good. I can't physically see it.
You thought you weren't going to like it, right? I recall.
I think I was scared. I was very scared because the last time I got really excited was for the Hobbit movies, which were very bad, quite bad, super terrible. This show is not that. It is quite good. The problem people have with it is it goes outside the written story, but the whole written story they're basing it off of is 28 pages, I think. So you can't have a television show based on a 28-page book. So I don't know. The fandom surrounding it has been bad, and I've not involved myself in it because it's super toxic.
Fandoms are bad, I think.
Fandoms, I think, in general are
other
bad.
Than the drafted fandom. The drafted fandom is very healthy and fine.
Most of the time.
Towards each other. They're toxic as fuck.
Not towards us. Yeah, not towards us, for sure.
But towards each other, they seem pretty fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I am drinking another Wicked Weed fresh pressed wheat ale because it was so delicious last time. That's how I'm concluding this season. Preston, usually we kind of get right into it. We don't have a draft to talk about, so I'm going to use my platform to discuss something that I want to discuss. Okay.
These are some famous last words right here. Cancel incoming.
No, I want to. I just want to bounce something off here.
Okay.
Since I have you, it's like you're pretty captive. Like you can't really leave right now because
Absolutely not.
we're recording the podcast together.
Nope.
I was watching some YouTube videos today, and I saw a commercial that I have seen a few times, and it really struck me the first like today. It's a commercial for Dawn dish soap.
Okay.
And the commercial is basically a duck, a baby duck, a duckling gets covered in what appears to be oil and then is cleaned.
I'm familiar. Yeah.
With the dish soap. And this is to
Yes.
show how great Dawn dish soap is.
Okay.
But if you think about it, it is almost certain. Now, I don't think it's actually oil, but whatever they put on the duck, they put on the duck for that commercial because there's no shot they came across a singular duck covered in oil and they were like, oh, let's get the production crew out here so we can film this for a commercial.
Well, and even if that were the case, they're now letting a duck just sit there in oil as they wait for the lighting to get set up and the camera crews to get. It's not exactly better. I take your point. Maybe it's very good CGI. Just the best CGI.
It's not CGI. There's something on that duck.
Okay. There's also places. Okay. Turns out the tables have turned. I'm the one who's getting canceled. There's places in America you can probably go where you can just find a duck covered in oil.
I mean, maybe that's what they did.
They just went to Deepwater Horizon out in the middle of the Gulf, and they're like, just throw a rock, you'll find a duck.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not true.
Since you brought this up, I got into this argument at work today.
About
this
the
is
duck?
my sort of.
Okay.
The age-old question of would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck came up. And the room was a little divided.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you stand? I don't think we've had this argument before.
No, we've not. I think to be honest with you, I think you're losing either way.
I disagree.
People think ducks are small. Ducks aren't that small. Now, grant you, there are lots of different kinds of ducks that vary pretty widely in size, but
sure,
ducks
we'll call it a standard mallard.
That 100 of them are going to fuck you up.
Yes.
It was similarly a single horse-sized duck is also going to fuck you up. So I don't think there's a correct answer, and I know that's a cop out.
Yeah, if you're fighting for your life, though, which one are you picking?
I'm fighting for my life. I think I'm picking the one singular enemy.
No, incorrect answer. I think the main strength of horses is their size. Their kicks and their bucking is leverage created by big weight and sudden movement. I get you, ducks are like pretty big.
I think that has more to do with their that has more to do with their strength than their size, I would say.
That's fine, but even if ducks are pretty big, even if they're that small, that bucking isn't going to hurt nearly as bad. Meanwhile, one horse-sized duck, ducks are mad. They're crazy agile. The beak is going to get you in 5 seconds. I don't think you stand a chance in hell to get a single shot in against a horse-sized duck.
The thing is, if you have a loaf of bread, then it's an easy escape from the horse-sized duck.
Think about your economies.
How are you going to distract?
The loaf of bread to the horse-sized duck is the equivalent of like one slice of bread. Tiny bite. No, not a slice to a regular duck.
How big do you think horses are? Horses
are big.
They're not that big. They're taller than
you.
A loaf of bread in one bite.
That's a take. I disagree. I think it's gobbling. I think it's gobbling you right up in a heartbeat.
That's ridiculous. That's absurd. That's maybe the most absurd thing you've ever said on this show. Not really. But no, I think just 100 is a lot of them. And if they're attacking en masse, then I just don't think there's anything you can really do about that. I think, like I said, I think it's a losing proposition no matter what. I don't think you're winning a fight against either. But I'd rather have the one singular enemy that I can keep my eye on at all times than the 100 swarming horse-sized ducks.
I've been attacked by a flock of geese before.
Really?
Yeah, it was bad, but look, I'm still here.
You did live to tell the tale.
Mm-hmm.
How many geese?
Mm,
And to what extent did they attack you?
6 or 7, and I was bit several times.
Okay,
I
so
was
now
like,
imagine
I was
that
like 7 years old.
times
Times
okay.
100 geese are twice the size of ducks.
Yeah, maybe twice the size.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, enough of this.
Yeah.
This. Let's get on to reviewing the season of Drafted that was. I believe, Preston, that this was our longest season to date.
Is that right?
With 16 episodes, 14 drafts,
Oh my God.
2 brackets, and we had a couple live shows as well. So
that is a lot. I had no idea
Yeah.
we did that much, actually.
yeah, we our first episode released this season was the first week of May. And we ran all the way through halfway through September. So that's a pretty good run, I would say, for season 3 of Drafted. Not too bad, not too shabby.
I would agree.
Our very first draft, of course, we had one Lindsay Sue on, who I won't get ahead of myself, but okay, we'll get ahead of myself. I think they were the only person to come on more than once this season.
Is that right?
No, Pat. I think Pat did.
Pat did twice. Names and cocktails.
Pat and Sue, yep. Those are the 2. Sue absolutely dominated this poll, taking 55.6% of the vote.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a bit of a beatdown, I think it's fair to say.
We didn't say what we drafted.
Oh, sorry. It was best karaoke set list.
This was a hard one to not just completely follow my heart on.
Yeah, that's often the case for you, I find.
Yeah, but like karaoke especially, I think all of us imagined ourselves having to give these performances, so we're picking stuff that feels right to us.
Yeah, I think I don't know that it was wrong that Sue won. I think it was wrong that she won by so much. I think the infamous pick from this draft was my Wonderwall pick, but Sue took Sweet Child of Mine with her first pick, and I got to be honest, I don't think Wonderwall is any more obnoxious than Sweet Child of Mine as a song.
See, this is okay. We're back to where we were during the episode. It's all coming back to me. This Wonderwall pick is crazy. And I remember being on the show and I sounded like a madman because you guys were like, you're way overreacting to this. And I was like, you took
Sue also overreacted. Y'all
no,
both
correctly reacted.
The people.
I think the Discord was with us. No,
they were not. They absolutely were not. There were multiple people in the Discord saying that Wonderwall.
I'm gonna have to go back and check, or just like reach back out to me because I think this is crazy. I think if you actually busted this out at karaoke, you would be removed. Like I could imagine going into a karaoke bar and they have a like sign on the wall that says no Wonderwall.
That is just a ridiculous thing to say. It's just ridiculous. I don't even know. I can't even counter it because it's just ridiculous. It's just you're living in a different universe. But yeah, Sue won that one, which I think is fair. But I think the hate for Wonderwall still will look bad as we look back in history. It won't be a take that ages. We'll be on the wrong side of history, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, you did finish in last place here, so
I was going to move over. I was going to move past that. But you are right. Preston had second place with 25.9% of the vote. I had 18.5% of the vote. Next draft. What do we draft after that? We did Ice Cream Sundays, and this was an important episode for the lore of the show, Preston, because it revealed the show's greatest rival, and that is friggin' nerd Mario, who I am greatly dismayed to say won this draft somehow.
How?
His
ridiculous.
Ice cream, his ridiculous Ice Cream Sunday, his Mario Party Sunday or something like that, took 40.5% of the vote. Preston had 37.8%, and I had 21.6% of the vote. Now, I will admit to you, this is not my best performance. I think I leaned a little bit too much on what I thought other people might prefer. But you should have won this. You should have won this over Mario, in my opinion.
I think so too. His team, I'm reviewing it again. It's pure chaos. Cookies and cream and birthday cake ice cream with whipped cream, sprinkles, cookie dough, and M&Ms. That's so just the colors alone.
Were 8-year-olds the only voters in this poll?
This was our exclusive release to the 8-year-old email list that we've been
This is our attempt
cultivating.
to lock in the 8-year-old podcast demographic. It worked. We did tremendous numbers with 8 to 10-year-olds this season.
This was one of my most confident drafts of the season. I felt like what I wanted and what I thought the public wanted lined up, like the planets aligning at the end of Hercules. It felt very good to me. And yet, no. Like I would eat this sundae without replacing a single ingredient in it.
Remind me what your sundae was?
Vanilla and coffee ice cream, which I feel like the key there was to not be super overpowering. But the coffee, I'm sure,
might have been a little bit of a dice roll. Yeah.
Yeah. A warm brownie.
That's such a strong
which was clutch. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
peanuts,
really strong.
Pretzels, which I know pretzels probably through some people, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And caramel sauce. I felt like the key here that we'll see in some other drafts was to not overwhelm with any single pick. Like don't get something that's too crazy that you can't come back from it.
Yeah, I think like the peanut pretzel combo was maybe too much for me, but I still am picking your sundae over Mario's every single damn time. And I didn't perform great. I didn't really turn it on this season until late. I was kind of just coasting. I was resting on my laurels of previous success, and didn't find my stride for a little while this season. I'll admit it.
Also, let it be known that during this show, I did mention at some point that I was not familiar with pirouettes, and Mama Printo bought me a jar or a canister, whatever you call it,
a tin
of pirouettes for my birthday. That was a month after the show, and I was very appreciative of that. In fact,
did you like them?
I still have some left. I do really like them, but I still have some left, I think. Yeah,
they're delish. Next draft, we brought on the aforementioned Pat Miller to draft the most obnoxious family with top 250 baby names. This might be the favorite draft we've ever done.
It's up there for me. It's right up there. It's so unbelievably chaotic. I thought of in bed the other night, like at 10 o'clock at night, Lauren and I are kind of winding down, falling asleep. I thought of your first 2 picks in this draft and just started spontaneously laughing. You had, if I'm not mistaken, back-to-back picks.
Yeah, I the 3-4.
And you were like, I'm going to take Jackson and Jackson. And I think it was the hardest. I think it was the hardest I've ever laughed on the show.
Yeah.
It was.
I felt really good about it. I felt really good about my whole performance. I didn't have a great closer, which I think maybe hurt me. Somehow I didn't win this poll. Pat won the poll with 43.8% of the vote. I had 37.5%, 18.8% for Preston.
You were screwed a little bit by you took Maverick, and Top Gun Maverick actually, against all odds, turned out to be a good movie. And I think that maybe ruined your Maverick pick.
This was before that, though. I'm pretty certain.
I know, but in hindsight. But your top 3 here are the strongest top 3, I think, of almost anybody this season. Jackson, and Braxton. So good. You could have stopped there. And I wish I may have voted for your team here on the episode. I don't remember.
I wish I could have stopped there. My second half definitely diluted the strong start, because there were no other axe picks for me available, unfortunately.
It also gave us one of our best pieces of merch. That's true.
That's true. Yeah.
Which is the "Hello, my name is Axel Xander" sticker.
Yeah.
Which really is sitting tremendous. Right behind me. Yeah.
Absolutely tremendous. But yeah, I only 16% or only 16 votes in this poll. So I feel like if we got a little bit better voter response there, we could have done a little bit better. And I will say, I'm gonna make a culpa here. Missed a lot of graphic tweets this season. Mostly because I just was extremely busy and would forget to do it. There were days where I forgot to upload the episode on time or send a tweet at all. So that's
should we hire a social media manager?
We need an intern.
Oh, we need an intern.
Labor. Yeah.
That's the key.
If you wanna be social media intern for the Drafted Podcast, please email us at draftedpod. Or draftedpod@gmail.com. We'll come up with something that we can do for you, some sort of perk. But it'll look great on your resume.
You want to
tremendous on your
you
resume.
want to run for state office? I'll help you.
There you go. You got to be in the
There's
state
an
of Georgia,
offer.
though. I have to live in the state of Georgia for that perk. We'll come up with other perks if you live elsewhere. But yeah, hit us up. But yeah, so Pat wins that one. Pat, here's the thing. Pat, every time he comes on, pretty much is going to win the poll.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, people love Pat, and for good reason. He's a tremendous guest.
They're also some of my
Extremely
favorite
funny man.
episodes. Before we start recording, though, they are some of my more anxious episodes because I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I still think my favorite episode is the Animal Kingdom.
That is a great one.
Draft we did.
That is a great one.
Which was also him.
Yeah, I think if we were like picking favorite episodes for us, a lot of them would be Pat's probably.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I will say it has helped that we've gotten a little more lax about editing. We let a lot more in than we used to, which I think really helps with the Pat episodes, I have to say.
We've yet to get a complaint, but maybe I'm just not seeing them.
No, I think people like them more, I think. But yeah, we used to try a lot harder to keep it right around an hour. So that would require cutting pretty much a minimum of 20 minutes of Pat time when he would come on.
Yeah, that's small. Probably an hour.
Yeah. Next, we had a pretty special draft, Preston. We had Lauren back on to draft the worst vacation. And I did not realize this until this very moment, but I won this draft. 47.1% of the vote. Preston, Preston, this is a theme for you. You got a lot of second places this season, my friend. 29.4% and then 23.5% for Lauren.
I would say that's an improvement for me on average.
Yeah.
A lot better than a lot of third places. So
that's true.
I'll take it. Yeah, I think I'm looking at the teams again. I think you do have a good team. I think you got a couple picks late that pissed Lauren off in the show, but most of the voters appeared to agree with. Like specifically, I'm thinking of the Champs-Elysees. And
she really was upset by that. She's not spoken to me since then.
Yeah, she's not spoken to me since then too. It's weird.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's making living here really hard.
That one was awkward, a little tense because I did make some picks that I also who took, was it me that took Times Square? I can't remember.
Yeah, you took Times Square. You have Mall of America and Times Square back to back, which are good picks, I think. I think you have, at least on the top half, probably the strongest team here, or Lauren. I don't think I showed up super well here.
But you got second place in the poll, so
I'll take it. I think that's the Mona Lisa carrying me, to be honest. A lot of the other stuff I don't recognize. This is the famous entry point into my own lexicon of mannequin piss, which was my last pick of the draft.
Yeah, mannequin piss. Kind of legendary, actually, mannequin piss. Okay, what do we have next? Oh, the next episode we had was not a draft. It was the best video game franchise bracket that we did with Mike from Friggin' Nerds.
I had a take on here that made a lot of people mad.
Yeah,
like
what was it? I don't remember.
It was that Skyrim's actually not that great.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people were not happy about that.
Yeah, and we slept on Morrowind as well. We didn't even mention it as like one of the which apparently is like a lot of people's that at least listen to the show, just like their favorite video game of all time. I
have no regrets.
That's good.
I still maintain that Skyrim is just like not it.
Oof.
But besides that, I think we came to the right.
He's doubling down, folks.
Seriously, come at me. If you've got to install 72 mods to get a game to even just function,
it's
like
old,
a video game.
Man. It's like a 20-year-old game.
I know, but there are other 20-year-old games that we discussed in there that I still play regularly all the time. Like, and that people still go back to time and time again. Skyrim is a entry point into a new kind of video game that was immediately surpassed by the things that came after it. Immediately. It's very important. And I said this on the show. It's an incredibly important staple.
He's tripling down.
There is no reason I would go back and play it.
He's more than doubling down. They're going to come for you again, Preston. And I'm not going to be able to hold him back this time. I'm not going to be able to hold him back this time. We did ask our Twitter audience who they thought the best video game franchise of all time was, and they agreed with us. Super Mario Bros., which I think was maybe a contentious decision, if I recall, over Legend of Zelda as the
it was a Mario Zelda final, and I think that's where we all knew it was going to be. Yeah. And I think it came down to Zelda has some games that are just like not good.
Pretty passable. Yeah.
The highs are very high, but the lows are junk.
I don't know about junk, but just like kind of like as the kids would say these days, mid.
Very mid.
Yeah.
Aggressively mid.
Super Mario Bros. Had 58.3% of the vote. Legend of Zelda 25%, and then other had 16.7% of the vote. So we didn't get any replies though to what the others would be. So I'm curious as to what other people think is the best video game franchise of all time. Next, go ahead.
You skipped a draft.
Oh, did I? Oh, shoot.
So I'm lassoing you in. And you
please.
Skipped our Cartoon Network characters.
Oh, okay. I just had them in the wrong order. I was getting to that one next.
My fault. My fault. Okay. This is why I let you drive.
And I think this was weird because we released one episode kind of late in the week, like on a Thursday or something, and then we came right back with a Tuesday. So I might have just had the order wrong of these as I'm going through the tweets. But yeah, we had Paige on to draft the Cartoon Network characters, to draft the worst group project. We did a lot of worst drafts this season. I think that shows we're maybe desperate for ideas.
I think we're just becoming more cynical as people.
Oh yeah. Or
both can be true.
I've always been cynical, and I think you just doing this show with me for 3 years has now made you more cynical.
I'm catching up.
That's the direction. Yeah, that's the direction of the show. Let's see who won this poll.
That'd be Paige.
Did Paige win? My Twitter is being real annoying right now. Paige did win, yes, 44.4%. That's kind of a fun number. Oh, this is delicious. I love this. Paige had 44.4%. I had 33.3%, and you had 22.2% of the vote. Wow,
the lovely not symmetry of that is lovely.
Yeah. We did get a response from Friggin' Nerd Mike via the Friggin' Nerds Media Twitter. How is Caillou not the first overall pick in this draft? And I got him in the third round. So I think that the people in the know, if they had voted in bigger numbers, I would have won this poll.
I don't think I had Caillou on my list because I didn't remember him being a Cartoon Network character. Maybe this came up on the show.
It was a bit of a technicality, but you allowed it. Because he originally was like, he's like from a Canadian
PBS
show.
Or something. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's a Canadian show, but yeah, aired on PBS in the US when we were kids. But now apparently airs on Cartoon Network for some reason.
Yeah, Caillou was the popular pick of this draft, but Paige wins out with Johnny Bravo being the team lead. Just the worst group project partner.
Yeah. The thing, so I think there were clearly different styles developed in this draft. I feel like you and Paige went for people who just wouldn't do anything, and I kind of went for people who I thought would try to do stuff and would do it badly,
actively make things worse.
Yeah, because Johnny Bravo I could deal with because he's going to be lazy and try to get out of the way, which I'm pretty fine with if you're an idiot like Johnny Bravo is. Like, I'd rather you do nothing than try to do something.
Yeah, I pretty much exemplified that by taking Plank. Who isn't going to contribute a whole lot to the project at all.
Yeah. But the thing is, with Plank, he's just kind of there for moral support.
I know, right?
You know, and you need that in a good group.
That's true. This group I could actually probably work with, which is not a good testament to my draft.
Yeah, you messed up. Okay, after Paige's draft, we had the revisit of our season 1 draft with Hans, which was, of course, perhaps the most famous draft in the history of this show, the Game of Thrones presidential cabinet draft.
Why is it famous, Dan?
If you know, you know. And somehow Hans won this one. Somehow, some way. You'll have to remind me of all the picks. I know how Hans won. It's because he did that bullshit yet again, where he retweets the blind poll with no graphic and then says to his massive Twitter following relative to ours, "You know what to do, fam."
Yeah,
and that's all he says.
He has his newspapers have a circulation of, I think it's like 150,000 people.
Yeah,
what are we to do
to vote for him? It's ridiculous.
People try and click the paper and nothing happens.
Front page.
This was one of my favorite drafts we did all year from like the strategic standpoint. One, I like the revisiting of the cabinet.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I'm hoping we'll come up with some ideas of other drafts we've done in the past where we can come revisit and kind of flesh them out a bit more. Hans's team as the winners. He has Yoda for Secretary of Education, which I think is great. R2-D2 for Transportation, which I think is fine. Qui-Gon Jinn for Health and Human Services, which makes very little sense. Comparatively, you have Leia and I have Luke for HHS, which I think makes considerable more sense.
Come on.
He has Rey for Secretary of Labor, which, okay. I took Finn, as this kind of like man of the
Rey's
masses.
a pretty good pick. Rey's a pretty good
I
pick
think it's fine. He had Mace Windu for Agriculture, and then the pick to end all picks is Han Solo as Attorney General.
He had the worst team of the three of us.
Well, he rescued me because I also made a similarly controversial pick for Attorney General. You don't have the team in front of you. Do you remember what it was? I'm glad you don't. Because,
I don't remember
because it was very risky.
Oh, it's Darth Vader.
I took the Enforcer. I took Darth Vader. And if there's one thing you can say about Darth Vader, is that he has rules and you better follow the rules. And Han Solo doesn't have rules. His whole shtick is breaking the law. It makes no sense to me why he would be Attorney General.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I still think the Vader pick was a bad pick. I really felt like I smashed this draft. Can you remind me what my team was?
Yes, Education was C-3PO. Transportation was Mon Mothma, which I think that was your problem. Is you took
this is my mistake. This is my mistake. I picked too well because I actually know not exactly household name Star Wars characters and people didn't know who the hell they were.
You have Leia for HHS. You have Padme for Labor, which I kind of hate because Padme's like isn't Padme royalty? Isn't she a princess?
I mean, she technically was to start, but then she just is a senator after.
Someone who's really clued in with what a hard day's work looked like.
Listen, her whole thing is about for the people and all that. Man, come on. Get out of here.
I think Finn is the best labor pick you can have. Attorney General, you have Bail Organa, which is fine. And Agriculture, you have Boss Nass. See, you have a couple people on your team who just people don't recognize. I have Uncle Owen as Agriculture, who is the only person in the whole series who ever does any farming. So I felt really good about that pick.
Well, Luke could have been as well. But yeah, I will rest easy at night knowing that in reality, I do have the best team. Maybe you all just don't know it. But yeah, Hans at 45% of the vote, which is absurd. I mean, whether you think Preston or me are better, I mean, Hans clearly was not the best one here. And then I came in second at 30% and Preston at 25% of the vote. And I do want to call out here what I think is a very important and astute reply from listener Cody Glazer. He said on Twitter, amazed that Yoda was consensus number one or that any Jedi Council was taken. Jedi were war criminals that got big duped in all caps.
Big duped.
He did not hashtag that, which I think is a mistake. Were corrupted and strayed from Force and ruined the world. Shout out at Pete Buttigieg. Great pod, 10 out of 10.
I don't remember how Pete Buttigieg came up in this conversation.
I don't remember either.
I just don't agree with that, but I understand the reading of the Jedi being.
No, honestly, I think it's extremely fair. The Jedi Council basically brought about the ending of the entire galactic governmental structure as it was at the time.
It's
because they were a bunch of idiots.
Yeah. Okay. I can't argue with it. It seems right.
I mean, listen, they got big duped. I think
big duped.
I think there's no other way to put it.
Just like the voters on this poll, they got big duped.
Big duped. Next, we had whose movie marathon would you most want to watch of the bad movies? And of course, we had John Wolf, the bad movie expert, on for this draft, and John smashed it. He took 50% of the vote. Preston had 33.3%. I had 16.7%. I will say, though, very low Twitter poll turnout on this. We might run back some of these polls just to see, just for science. The official winners have all been chosen, of course. You only get a week for the official poll, but especially since I didn't get out a lot of the Twitter graphics, which I know makes voting a lot easier. In the off season, we might run back some of these polls with the graphics just to see who's going to win with a larger turnout of voters.
I have a question.
Please.
This was something that happened on the Continental Breakfast draft that we did very recently, where Charlie showed Charlie, our guest for the episode, showed his wife, a cropped version of the graphic, or just the list of teams with no names.
With no names attached,
and had her vote. I did the same with my wife. I'm legitimately wondering after that experiment if there are some episodes we do next season where we release the graphic with no names, and then a second time in the week we release the graphic with names. I want people to vote blind, and then after the vote is closed, I want to reveal which team won and who has that team. I don't know that it would work every time, but I like the idea.
Well, it definitely won't work for people that actually listen to the show, because they'll know.
This is true, but I like the idea of mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah, we could do that. We could do some blind polls. We could do some blind polls for sure. I love a blind poll. There's few things more scientific than a blind poll, you know? Our next draft was the Disney villain to stage a bank heist. And this, I'm sure this has happened before, but of course, 3 years of, which is insane. We've done this for 3 years, Preston.
That's wild. I've had this job longer than any other job in my life.
Wow, that's wild. It's not a job. Well, it doesn't pay well anyway.
No, not really.
But it does pay a little bit thanks to our Patreon supporters, who we love. But yeah, we had a tie. Preston and Kelsey Hayden, the show's resident Canadian. You all split the top vote, 40% each, and then I brought up the rear with 20% of the vote.
I absolutely crushed this one. I understand why Kelsey and I tied, but I have like so Kelsey, many names. Well, yes, but she has a lion on her team. And I think this was the big sticking point on the show, is that Scar would not be a good partner in this bank heist operation.
Hashtag Scar can speak to humans.
And I have 3 people on my team that can just do this whole thing on their own, and the other 3 can like look at cameras in the van. I have Dr. Facilier.
That's not as fun, you know?
That's fine. I have Dr. Facilier, Hades, and Jafar, which is amazing. There's nothing those 3 couldn't accomplish.
Yeah, I will say in hindsight, maybe we shouldn't have done Disney villains for this draft, because you're right. I went about it in a way that's like, my team is going to be like, have the roles. It's going to have the different parts, and they're going to do like a traditional classic bank heist, like you see in Ocean's 11 or some shit. And then you and Kelsey both kind of like, no, we're just like going to take the overpowered supervillains with superpowers that make it impossible for them to be stopped from just taking whatever they want from the fucking bank. And I'm not saying that's not smart. I'm not saying that's not smart. Clearly that's why you two tied to win the poll here. But it just wasn't in the spirit, in my mind, the spirit of what the draft was. So I think maybe we made a mistake for matching draft pool to draft purpose, if that makes sense.
Okay. So we probably just shouldn't do the show anymore.
Yeah, I think we just wrap it up right here. We don't even address the rest of the drafts of the season.
Let's tie a bow on it.
Yeah. Goodbye,
Good night, everybody.
Preston, did you hear?
What?
The Drafted podcast. They have merch now.
Oh my god, I love those guys. They're great.
They're pretty great. Which one's your favorite, would you say?
Well, Daniel, because Daniel's never ruthlessly offended a group of people on accident. So definitely Daniel.
Oh, I kind of like Preston more myself. That Daniel guy, he seems like a little stuck up. But I think one thing we can all agree on is how great the Drafted merch is.
I'm wearing it right now. It's very comfy. I feel taller. I feel slimmer.
Yeah.
I feel like I could run a sub 4.840 now, which is like pretty good, I would say.
You look great, better than usual even.
Oh,
But yeah,
thank you.
you also, there's stuff you don't have to wear. There's stickers and stuff you put drinks in, which is great. I know you love what is it? What's that drink you like?
All of them?
No, you know the one.
A hot toddy.
Yeah, that's the one. I mean, they got sweaters, hoodies, shirts. What more could you want from a merch store, you know? You can get all of it at draftedpodcast.creatorspring.com.
Everybody, it's your favorite host here to ask you on behalf of the Appen Podcast Network, our parent network, to go check out some of their other shows. I'm partial to the Georgia Politics Podcast. I'm a host there every week. We play games at the end of every episode, trivia. Great way to stay in touch with local issues going on here in Georgia, but we also touch on national things too. Would really appreciate if you come give us a listen. Check out everything the Appen Podcast Network has going on at appenmedia.com, APPENMEDIA.com.
Okay, those were going to be our closing ads of the show with, no real goodbye, but Preston kind of bullied me. He's like, I hear from you so little. We might as well, just so we can keep being friends for another half an hour
You're
or
one
so.
of like the 3 people that I talk to in a week. We got to keep
3
it
people?
going.
Surely you talk to more people than that at work.
Boss, wife, Daniel.
Wow. I'm in the Holy Triumvirate. What an honor.
That's it.
The Holy Trinity. Incredible. Okay, the next episode we had was another non-draft. We had Keith Rayner on, who we love and adore, to determine the worst fan base in all of sports. And Preston, who won? Do you recall?
Was it Boston?
Of course, it was Boston sports fans.
Yeah, it was always going to be Boston. My memory from this is that I feel like I got away with one a little bit because I'm a big Alabama fan and I'm constantly being called the worst, part of the worst sports fans ever. And then even going into the draft, we decided to group all of SEC football together, which I was like, oh, now this is just a meteor that's unstoppable because all of SEC football is just the worst. But I don't ever feel like we actually got into it. And I appreciate the both of you laying off the personal attacks.
Yeah, of course. Well, Keith is also a Florida fan, and he didn't even go to Florida. So I actually think that's more annoying to me than someone being an Alabama fan, personally.
We call those people Gumps. They're fictional Alabama graduates.
Oh,
like
yeah. And I will say, it's hard for me to judge. I mean, as a Florida State fan, I've not interacted with that many Alabama fans in like any sort of hostile setting,
That's nice.
So, I've not interacted with them in any kind of setting, really, other than you.
Okay.
And you're my friend. So like and we've only played like twice, I think, in our lifetimes. Only once when I was actually like when you and I would have been fans,
right?
Because we'd gone to the schools by then. And you and I led us, and like our starting quarterback got hurt in the first drive of the game and ended our season. So there's just no animosity there. I SEC, if I recall, got knocked out by Boston. So that was like a very tough matchup. It was an early tough matchup because we just randomized the seeds rather than seeding to like.
Well, and complicated for me because I do think SEC football fans are up there with probably the worst fan bases in the world. But it also implicates myself if I push them through because I'm right on in there.
Yeah, I feel like they're probably the worst too. It just was an early matchup. And Boston is the worst. So they ended up winning.
Do you have college fans where if you could kind of split up colleges on this list, you would have picked? I know there was like Duke, and Duke was on there too, but like.
Oh yeah, I think Duke ended up making the final.
Right.
I think it was Boston versus Duke in the final. If
you could add in a couple more fandoms, maybe even out of like the SEC football world.
In college sports specifically?
Yeah, anybody you've had bad run-ins with, yeah.
I mean, Florida fans are pretty annoying, but that's SEC, I guess. Miami fans are awful. I think actually, and I'm biased. I'm a Florida State fan, so my 2 biggest rival schools are Florida and Miami. Florida kids are kind of annoying because they have like this air of superiority about them. It's like there's like a joke that's like the only difference between a Florida kid and a Florida State kid are that the Florida State kids didn't get into Florida, meaning that like,
Oof.
you know, Florida State is the backup school, which is bullshit and not true. Florida State's a
No.
great school.
Yeah, when I was applying for schools, I think Florida State might have been harder to get into than Florida, but maybe that wasn't true.
Even if it's not, we're going to go with it.
We're going to go with it.
But the annoying thing about Miami fans is none of them went to Miami.
I know.
None of the people that
being a Miami fan is kind of a like cultural institution in the same way of like being a Yankees fan is, which is a college sport. I don't really appreciate because it's kind of the only one. I associate a lot with Notre Dame, where like Notre Dame has a cultural following kind of that's not like any other college.
Yeah, and they're just like they're just a bad fan base. They're just a bad fan base. Like if I relish in the fact that Miami lost and got dominated by Middle Tennessee State this past weekend, not to get too on the nose.
Absolutely crushed.
Did you see the stadium for that game?
Yeah,
there was no one there. Absolutely no one there. And
I would love to know like how attendances are, especially in college too, how attendances are relative to success. Like there's a statistical formula here where you could figure out, like you could ID the biggest bandwagons in sports.
Yeah.
Or like how relative, how relative to attendance is winning by team, basically.
It sure ain't Miami.
Nope.
Yeah, no, they listen, I know it's a bad opponent, Middle Tennessee, so people are going to show up for that, but they don't show up ever unless Florida State is on the road. That's the only game Miami fans show up for at their own home stadium. They're horrible fans. I find them extremely irritating, and I hate them. So that's my answer to that question. But yeah, Boston was voted, I think, unanimously in the final over Duke, which is saying something. And I will say the difference, I think, between Duke and SEC football fans, Duke fans are just holier than thou and elitist snobs. And I think it's ridiculous when people that have no affiliation with the school adopt it as a team to root for. It's like, do you root for the evil empire in Star Wars?
Yep, the Death Star.
I mean,
ridiculous.
What is wrong with you? But SEC fans like poison trees. You know,
this is true.
They're a different kind of bad. They're a different kind of bad.
It's a little more visceral. Yeah.
I think the SEC football fans are probably worse. I think if you see them, they would be two behind Boston, then probably Duke, and then probably New York fans. I think would probably be like
that seems right to me.
The 4 seeds, yeah.
I buy it. Yeah.
Next, we had the Carnival draft. With don't tell anyone else I said this. None of our other guests, but my personal favorite guest to have on the show, Britt from Friggin' Nerds.
Wow. Over me?
You're not a guest.
Oh, that's fair.
But we will eventually do a guest draft, probably as our last ever episode, to burn every bridge we've built during this show.
Turns out we hate all you people.
Upset everyone except Britt, because Britt would be my first pick. But she came on for the Carnival draft, which was super fun, right in the dead of summer. And it was especially fun because I won. I took 50% of the vote. Preston, you came in second with 33.3% of the vote. And then Britt had 16.7% of the vote.
Is it weird that I feel like Britt got a little
changed?
Yeah.
She just
had Ferris wheel, fortune teller, tunnel of love, caramel apples, milk bottle toss, and soft pretzels. That seems very nice.
I think just a little unexciting.
I guess
probably held Britt back.
Nothing new. You had Mexican street corn coming in out of nowhere, just out of left field. Be like, by the way, there's Mexican street corn at the carnival.
That was less out of left field than your banana stand, my friend.
Yes, but there's always money in the banana stands.
Yeah, I think more than most picks, we got a lot of pushback on the banana stand. There were a lot of people saying, "I've never seen a banana stand in my life, let alone at a carnival."
What's your retort? Once. I've seen it once. So F off.
Yeah,
maybe it was a dream. I don't know.
I feel like I've seen it. But Mario from Friggin' Nerds did point out, he asked, did Britt choose almost the exact same team when we did this on our show? LOL. And Britt did basically say that she finished in dead last in her poll and then proceeded to pick a very similar team on our show and finished dead last again.
At least it's consistent. Had she done that and come on our show and won, it would have made me feel like we're a pretty B-rate production over here. But that's good, I guess.
No, it would have just made me think that our fan base has a healthier appreciation for Brit than her own fan base does.
Interesting.
How
would you like to leave the friggin' Nerds
Empire?
Brit,
consider it. Consider
permanently join the draft. We actually couldn't do that because if she became a permanent host and then we still had a guest on, we're now drafting 4 teams of 6, which severely limits what we can actually do.
She could just be permanent guest.
Oh, okay.
Just 3 of us.
We'll just never have another guest.
Conference realignment is very in, Brit. It's all the rage.
It's super vogue. Super vogue.
We'll have our people get in touch with your people. Next was a very, very, very fun draft for me because I just YOLO'd the fuck out of it. Didn't give a shit because it honestly was a subject that I didn't like, that I don't give a shit about. And that was recasting the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I won the poll.
Ridiculous.
My big middle finger to the concept of this draft at all ended up taking the popular vote, 40% of the vote. And Preston and James, who what a treat James is. I'm so glad we got him on this season for the first time.
Yeah,
he is the newest member of the friggin' Nerds, so he wasn't even around for us really. That we didn't know him to have him around last season. But yeah, he and you both lost to me in this draft.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it a little on the show, but even more since then, I'm much more infatuated with your vision for the MCU than I am the current reality that we live in. I even look at my team and I think my team is very good and very serviceable for a thing I no longer really want or like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of sad. Like I have Liam Neeson as Thor, which is perfect. Ryan Gosling is Iron Man, which is perfect. Tom Cruise is Cap, which is perfect. I have the perfect team here, but I just don't really want it anymore. You've got so much more fun stuff going on. And again, I talked about it on the show, but just the pace that these products are coming out now. I would throw Star Wars in there too, to be honest. The struggle is I've heard the new Star Wars show is actually legitimately good, but it still feels like I have Andor. They're like, people are saying like, oh my God, it's a Star Wars show, but it has like good writing and good character development. But I have to like wring myself to go watch it. And that is not a feeling I want to have. It's about like the birth of the rebellion. Do you know that meme of the guy from Rogue One? He says, I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old. It's that guy.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, but the show has Diego Luna in it.
Yes.
Yeah. That actually does look kind of good, but I'm not going to watch it because I'm over it.
I'm burnt out. Especially when like, weirdly, there's actually like good stuff coming out now.
Just like in general.
So, yeah.
Like what?
Just like as Pat would say here, why would you watch another Star Wars thing in a world where everything everywhere all at once exists? Like, just go watch something new. The new stuff is fun.
See, listen, not to beat a dead horse here, but since we are discussing the MCU draft we did, this has been my problem with MCU pretty much the whole time.
Here's the thing you need to do though when you talk about this. I compartmentalize in my head the era of Iron Man to Endgame. I have that as a block, and I hold that as its own specific thing. And then everything else, I'm kind of like meh. WandaVision was pretty good, but everything else I'm like kind of meh.
But even that block consisted of like 15 years and like 50 plus films.
Yes, but I would say their hit rate was pretty good, and their pace, more importantly, was fine. They were at like 15 movies, or did you say like 50 movies, which I think is probably actually high. Maybe not.
It felt like 50 movies.
Over 15 years, that pace is actually doable. Going to the movie theater twice a year, is very doable.
But just give me something else. Give me something else. I don't want that much superhero stuff.
But do you play this as a zero-sum game? As in, because we're getting Marvel stuff, we're not getting other things? Like, it's not a zero-sum game.
Well, really? No, it is. Yes. There's only so much money to make movies and only so many studios to make movies.
Interesting. I don't know about that. I mean, like, I don't know that Marvel Studios in its existence is pulling opportunities
I think
from
it definitely
other
was.
smaller places.
And is because like if they weren't making those movies, the people who were making those movies would be thinking of other things to make. But instead, they're like, we're just gonna make a bajillion MCU things and just make gajillions of dollars. And listen, I can't play them. They're making up money out the ass. And I can't blame them for that.
You might be right. It'd be interesting to see.
That was just always that was always my issue with it.
Taika Waititi probably does more fun things if the MCU doesn't exist. Because I love all of his movies that aren't MCU. And I really like Ragnarok, but like, yeah, and Sam Raimi too. I think you're probably right. I will say it is becoming evident, very clear, that the tech studio within Marvel Studios is burnt the F out. That shit is declining rapidly. Like the effects that are going in to these giant blockbusters are so bad. And it's clearly just an issue of time that the same studio is having to pump this shit out. Anyways, we don't have to have this conversation again. Because
I also think like it's a zero-sum game because people aren't going to see an infinite amount of movies, you know? So like if people are going to see all these superhero movies and they're not going to go see other ones, and that like just creates this vacuum of an inability to make other more creative stuff because people aren't going to see it.
I don't know that I agree with that because I don't go to the movie theater very much, and it takes something to pull me to the theater. I'm not going to the movie theater and then deciding what I'm going to go see, which is the kind of person you're talking about, which is like, we should go see a movie, and then you're looking it up.
No, I don't agree.
But then something has to pull you there. And in the absence of like MCU for some people, there's probably not really anything that's going to do that. Like I go to the movie theater now, it feels like something, some sort of event. Okay. But people have gone to the movies long before the MCU was ever a thing.
I
totally agree with you, obviously. But the thing you just said is wild, that like if the MCU movies didn't exist, then those people would see other movies at movie theaters.
Yeah, because
I think there's a large section of the population for which that is not true. I think the thing pulling them to the movie theater, I think some people that are specifically going to the movies because MCU movies to them are events, which I think is less true now than it was 3 or 4 years ago. But like Spider-Man Homecoming, that was a freaking event. That was like buying tickets to a concert. That was not like going to see a work of art. That was like going to a thing with your friends. I don't think that person like looks at what's currently playing in their local movie theater and then picks something. They got pulled to go see that. I'm not saying it's a net good.
Pulled to go see anything though. You can get pulled to go see anything, especially if it has MCU level promotional budget.
But you're arguing that if the MCU didn't exist, other stuff would have that, which just doesn't make any sense. That's not how money works. Like Everything Everywhere All at Once doesn't suddenly become a 3 times as much higher budget movie because Thor, the whatever world didn't come out.
Why not?
They could
make more.
There's not
a
set.
Movies don't have to cost $1 billion to make to be good. You know.
No, I totally get that, but there's not a set line item budget that the entire world spends on movies each year. They spend money on movies when they think they'll get a return. So like that budget goes up when the return goes up. So if the MCU went away, that money wouldn't just magically trickle down into smaller projects. That's not how that works.
I think it would.
Okay.
I think it would.
And we'll end it there.
Okay, our next draft was Pat coming back on for the mystery draft, the first ever decided live. I mean, it wasn't live because it was recorded to you, but decided in the moment with no time to prep draft. And that was end up being the cocktail draft, where you and Pat went off the rails here. And I, basically completely phoning it in and not making any attempt at risk whatsoever, took over half the vote, 52.9%, Pat 29.4%, and you 17.6%.
Yeah. First of all, how do you think the randomizer idea worked? Do you think we'll use that again?
I liked it. I loved it. I don't know if it was fun for people to listen to. It was very fun to do.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm curious what the folks at home think. I do think my drink will be fine when I eventually have to drink it.
No, this has been brought up. This has been the response from a lot of people in the Discord, on Twitter, even texting me. And they're right. We didn't give you enough grief for this. Mint was an abomination of a pick for you.
Yeah, it's bad.
Your whole thing was citrus based.
Can I read my team for people who forgot?
Go ahead.
Vodka, triple sec, and peach schnapps. So we're getting nasty. Orange juice, pineapple garnish, and mint. And the mint was a problem.
What is famously the most clashing flavors or most clashing things to have in your mouth?
It's drinking a glass of orange juice after you brush your teeth. Like, this is the thing. And this is the thing I forgot because I don't drink a lot of orange juice. But I totally blanked that this was a thing that would actually like really disturb people.
Yeah,
not as much. It does not disturb people as much, I don't think, as injecting your drink with Mio Black Cherry Energy, which is something a crazy person does. Now, mind you, we had to talk him out of taking pure, uncut caffeine
tablets. Yeah,
he just wanted to put a caffeine tablet in his drink.
Yeah, we did not allow that.
This was the next best thing. I do think yours is the only drink I could have on here by a long shot more than once.
No
chance.
Like, listen,
I think mine would be good with, like, you know, as the only one of the day sitting by the water, but yours I could actually have a couple of.
Yours would be good if you removed mint.
Okay, we'll try one
mint
with one without.
Orange juice does not work. It
does
not work.
I want people to know Daniel's not having to convince me of that. I'm laughing at myself here. I know that was probably really dumb.
But yeah, I mean, Pat started kind of strong, but his draft just, boy, it devolved. It really fell apart down the stretch there.
You had a very nice strategy of deconstructing a pink lemonade and using it for 3 separate picks.
Yeah, I mean, six things to put in a drink when you've had no time to prep for that drink is a lot.
Yeah.
Right. Because like, I think if we'd all had time to prep for this, it would have just gone so differently, because you can like plan out a strategy. You can really think about some of the more like, you know, obscure or less than obvious ingredients to put in a drink. But in the moment, like, you can't really, it's hard to think of them, at least like, you know, early in the draft, especially like when you've had no time to drink. So my plan was to just minimize the number of things you're putting in this drink as possible. So that was kind of what I did. And it worked out well for me. I absolutely annihilated the draft. And I feel good about that. After that, we went back to Sue, so our second returning guest of the season. And we had the best first date draft, which was another unique draft similar to the wedding draft last year with Lauren, where there were only 3 things per category. Mm-hmm. So if you know, you're getting stuck with something. And Sue ended up winning that draft with 60% of the vote. I had 40%, and Preston took 0% of the vote. But we got 5 votes in this poll, so this one feels like it should not be an official decider.
Redo it,
because Sue had horse and carriage, I believe. Right? Is that right?
Horse-drawn carriage, yes. Which is, as we said on the show, something a murderer does.
Yeah. It's just.
I really like the drafts where we have set lists, in part because I always enjoy doing the set lists. So if we use them sparingly, I really like them. And it also had Sue put in a position where they're taking a horse-drawn carriage to go see Minions: The Rise of Gru, which I think is great. I similarly think, though, but I got shouted down on the show, and I think in the Discord, that visiting a psychic on a first date is also something a murderer would do, and also crazy, which was on your team.
I think it's all about context. Mm-hmm. If you go ironically, I think it can be fine. I think it could be fine.
But I have and I made the list here. Yeah. I knew that this was going to happen to somebody, and I somehow allowed it to happen to me. I got stuck with the worst possible option here, which is ending the night on a stern handshake. No coming back from that. That could have been perfect on everything else. Wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, that's tough. Although Pat did say in Discord that he's done that before, and it worked out okay. He got follow-up dates after that.
I don't buy it.
I don't either. I think he's lying through his face. But he did say it.
I like that he would be lying through his face to protect me, though. That makes me feel very special.
Yeah, that is actually very sweet. Very, very sweet. Next, we had a first timer. We had friggin' nerd Lee, who was an absolute delight, to draft the non-Harry Potter wizards and witches to form the Hogwarts house that would win the wizards, or that would win the House Cup. Excuse me. And Lee Preston absolutely wiped the floor with us. To no one's surprise, Lee knows more about Harry Potter than I think anyone I know. She won 62.5% of the vote. Preston, you took second place with 25%.
This is so bad.
I had a mere 12.5%.
This is so bad. First of all, I should have won. We can talk about that later.
Wow.
But I absolutely should have won.
You lost by 40 points.
Lee has a fascist dictator on her team. This is insane. I don't understand how this is not being talked about more, that she took the White Witch, which is like one of the most unambiguously villainous characters in all of literature. Like, this person has no redeeming qualities.
Yeah.
And yet, here we are.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate that that somehow escaped everybody.
Yeah. What was the rest of Lee's team? Refresh my memory.
Merlin, good pick. Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Elsa, the White Witch. Crazy. Yennefer and Elphaba. I think it's a fine. I think it's a fine team, except for the White Witch. I had Gandalf, Mary Poppins, and Doctor Strange. Outside of Jackson and Braxton, that is the strongest top three of any draft we've had this year. I think so.
I still don't like the Doctor Strange pick. Also, can we address something here?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it Gandalf?
What did I say?
You say Gandalf.
Is that what I say?
Yeah.
It's
said it just now, and you said it throughout.
What did you say? Gandalf? You said Gandalf?
Yeah.
I don't know that either one of us have this right. I'm really not sure.
Pronounced?
Gandalf. It's Gandalf. Gandalf. I'm imagining Elijah Wood saying it in my head.
All right.
Gandalf.
Now I'm going to pull up a supercut of characters just saying Gandalf.
It's clearly Gandalf.
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 Hang on. How do I people saying Gandalf? You said Gandalf in the draft as well, and I didn't say anything about it at the time because like, well, he's seen a lot of Lord of the Rings, but I've never heard anyone not say Gandalf.
Really?
Other than you. Yeah. Can I find?
Did you find a cut of it?
Okay, Elijah Wood does say Gandalf.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so it does sound like in at least Elijah Wood says Gandalf, but I will say it's supposed to be like British based, right? British people put the ass sound in weird places, like nachos and tacos. So I think most Americans at least say Gandalf.
Tacos. I mean, I suppose. I go by.
Let us know. Let us know in the Discord and on Twitter if the way Preston says it is correct or the way I'm saying it is correct.
If you beat me on this, I'm gonna.
I famously have not seen movies. But yeah, I am curious. Okay, what was next? Oh yes,
Continental.
Yes, we've made it. We've made it to the final draft of the season somehow, and that was the Continental Breakfast Draft with Charlie. And I have to say, I contest the result of this poll. Sometimes I know when we've performed poorly, Preston. Mm-hmm. Charlie took over 2/3 of the vote here. I guess right on 2/3.
This is dumb.
66.7%. I had 25%. 8.3% for Preston.
8.3 is a historical low. I think we're nearing pretty bad territory here, which is fair because I didn't even vote for myself in this one. I think what happened here, and I don't want to put it all on you, but I think the graphic tells the story. So we're going to tweet out the graphic at some point for this one. We've got to, because it tells the story a little better.
My speculation here, though, is that waffles carried the day for Charlie. That's the only thing I can figure. It's the only thing I can figure. I know my sister in the Discord said that before she even listened to the show, she says, I haven't listened yet, but whoever took waffles won because that's all I care about.
I showed mine. I showed this to 2 people where I removed the names.
Mhm.
And both of the people picked my draft because they said any breakfast without coffee is not usable.
See,
And I was hopeful that there would be more votes for that.
That makes
We have
me
an
sad a little
addiction. We have an
bit. Yeah,
addiction.
that's like just straight up caffeine addiction, straight up.
Yeah. Watch me not do anything about it.
Fair, I guess. I will say Charlie texted us that he presented the list blind to his own wife, and Liz picked my team, which felt pretty good.
It's pretty clear to me that you should have won this. Even with waffles, not even with waffles and their power, it seems you should have won this. I am so, even more than I was when we recorded the show, so thoroughly not convinced that home fries in a continental breakfast setting will work. I'm just not convinced.
I've had it and it's been good. I think the floor of breakfast potatoes is higher than you made it out to be, if I'm being honest.
Okay. I also just don't like potatoes, so I only eat home fries when they're like super crispy.
Yeah, so you shouldn't weigh in here. I'm gonna be honest.
But I eat hash browns and home fries when they're done well. Or well done.
They're well done, you mean? Then we made the same joke. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing. What I think is the thing that people are making a mistake of is they're overrating the average continental breakfast waffle. But don't get me wrong, waffles are fantastic. But the average continental breakfast waffle is extremely mediocre. It's not. It's like I'm just assuming that's why people voted for Charlie, because I think.
But they're fresh.
They are. That's true. That's true.
They're warm.
They're true.
Fresh out the maker. That's what I think makes the difference here. And you kind of trust it weirdly because you're in charge.
Oh yeah. Listen, don't get me wrong. I do think that the waffle maker is one of the best things at a continental breakfast. But I don't think it warrants single-handedly taking 66.7 of the vote, and ignoring the rest of the teams. In my opinion.
Also, people in the Discord saying there's omelet stations at some of these hotels.
Oh, that was a contentious debate.
Where are you staying?
Some people have said that they've seen it. Other people have said that they've never seen it.
And am I crazy? Like, omelet station means like a person's there, right? Like a human being is like staffing it. How would you have an omelet station without that? Like a make your own? That seems terrible.
I don't know. I've never seen it.
I feel like it'd be a person. It's got to be a person. I just have never seen that at a continental breakfast. I feel like I said this in the show. Stand by it. If you have an omelet station, it is no longer a continental breakfast. There is a different word for it.
I think you make good points.
Sometimes.
Oh, I forgot to tally the winning totals here.
Well, I didn't win anything for yet.
You tied for a win. You tied for one win.
Yeah, I suppose.
Hey, here's the question. How many times have Lauren voted for your team? That's all that really matters, right?
A couple, at least. It just goes to show that I do it for the love of the game. Yeah. And that I can live with. That I can live with.
That's good. I'm glad. I think I won 5 times. So, I mean, as always, this is always the case with our drafts. The guests
wrap us up, man.
You know what it is, Preston? We're too nice. We bring on people that that are their areas of expertise. We had a tweet after we tweeted about how Charlie came on for the Continental Breakfast Draft. One of the replies was, "Why do you always bring on Charlie for food episodes?"
Because he's excellent at them.
Because he knows food.
Yeah, and there's I said this on the show. There's literally nobody in my life that I would think is better prepared to talk about continental breakfast than Charlie Aston.
Yeah, no,
not a chance. So maybe you and I come up with a couple things we think we're good at, and we bring on guests to do those things. When have we had a draft where I'm like, oh, Daniel's set up perfectly for this? It's right up his alley. We're gonna draft. We're gonna draft FSU running backs from the early 2000s.
Yeah, let's do a. You know what I really want to do, Preston? This I think unfortunately it's too niche, but this would be super fun. I think for both of us, but to do a British panel comedy show, like drafting guests for the best.
I am just enough in that universe where I could probably formulate a team, just barely. There's not any guess we could have. What if?
No, there is.
Are we
not anyone that we've had on, but I know some people we could bring on.
Are we approaching that territory? Are we kind of like a rotational British comedy guest show, you think?
No, I wish.
That's the dream.
Yeah, that is the dream. Yeah, drafted pod listeners, start watching Would I Lie to You? Taskmaster. Like
QI, maybe?
QI is good. QI is solid.
QI is sometimes not as funny.
No, but it's interesting. You learn cool stuff.
It is good. Yeah.
8 out of 10 cats does countdown.
Yep.
And then like Mock the Week. That's one I don't watch as much, but like, that's like the kind of thing.
And so podcast wise is No Such Thing as a Fish is like the podcast
that's
equivalent
the QI
of all
podcast.
those, which are awesome. I love that show. Taskmaster is legitimately one of my favorite television shows ever made. I've been watching it a lot more lately because I'm trying to like de-stress with work stuff. And it's so good. And most of it's available on YouTube for free.
Yeah, a lot of it's on YouTube. So that's your homework, listeners. Go watch the shows so that we can do a draft for those shows. That's what we need from you. Okay. So we can finally goddamn win a draft. Jesus Christ.
And you'll watch Lord of the Rings and I'll watch all the Studio Ghibli movies.
Yeah. Yeah. I will actually watch Lord of the Rings and we'll do a Lord of the Rings draft next season. I promise.
I feel like we should watch them together somehow. I'm going to like bait you into a trip to like, hey, we're gonna go to the beach, we're gonna play some disc golf, it's gonna be fun. And you're gonna show up and I'm gonna lock the doors behind you, like the Clockwork Orange scene where I'm peeling your eyes open.
The problem is there are a lot of people who want to watch with me. My roommates really want to watch them with me. Pretty much all of my Twitch community wants to watch with me.
My actual suggestion here, because Lord of the Rings fans can be annoying, is to watch them alone. Watch them alone and let it sit with you before trying to get into all of the weird, crazy people.
This is the problem I am at now. The reason I did not watch them for so long is because of the commitment, and it's just a lot. It's just a lot. And now, and when I say commitment, I mean like time commitment. Right. But now there's all these people that are immensely invested in me seeing Lord of the Rings, and
I need you to like these movies.
See, this is the thing.
I don't want it. I need it.
All these people do. All these people need me to like love these movies, and I feel like that's an impossible way to like a movie. To have the expectations like, oh, when I watch this, I have to like it. And just knowing myself, I don't like things that people want me to like. I don't like things that a lot of people like, because like my brain is like, look for things to not like about it.
It's fair. I think I'm jesting with you.
No, I know.
If you came out of the movies and you respected them, then I'd be fine.
I'm sure I'll respect them.
Which I think it would be impossible not to do.
Yeah. I mean, here I'll if I can pull it up real quick, I'll read what was said here. My dear friend in real life, Bobby, who is a big supporter of the show. We love Bobby. Yeah. We do love Bobby. He says in the Discord, and this is like maybe like a week after he was like clearly listening, like about a week late from the episode this was revealed. He says, IDK if it's been said here yet, but it doesn't matter because it's worth repeating anyway. It is absolutely criminal that Daniel has not seen Lord of the Rings, and he should have known this. I'm pretty sure he did know this, and I guess like had just blocked it from memory. Right. He says, in the year of our Lord 2022, he has managed to avoid the most important IMO films of our generation. I'm kind of speechless, TBH.
This is true. Says, okay, I'm so with him on this.
Okay, I'm past being speechless, and now I'm just angry. Daniel, explain why. If this is one of those contrarian things again, okay, I'm past anger. Now I'm just disappointed.
I'm glad it's not a contrarian thing. I totally understand the time commitment thing. You're like, okay, when can I just like burn a day? Like it's rare in life at our ages that we just have like a day we can totally burn.
Yeah, and like for me, my movie watching, when I sit down and commit to it, I pretty much always these days go to movies that I know I like because I'm looking for the comfort of them.
Sure.
Like I watch so few movies new, and that sucks because like that, you know, it's like a character flaw. Because I do discover when I do that, I do discover movies that I love, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, incredible movie. But yeah, and I just feel like there's this pressure that I have to like, that I have to love them, that I have to think they're the best movies of our lives. Which is just a lot. It's like a lot of pressure to put on myself for watching a movie, you know. So that's been like a newfound reason for my hesitance to dive in.
I will personally attempt to lay up on you a little bit.
I appreciate that. It is brought up in my streams maybe at least once a week. Once a week.
I will let you log into my Vudu account so you can watch the extendeds in full HD.
Oh, I have
which
HBO
is very
Max,
important.
which I think aren't they on HBO Max?
They don't have the extendeds, I don't think.
Oh.
Which it is important to me that I think the extendeds are the preferred version. So
okay.
I will lend you my account.
Okay.
And then immediately change the password.
I can't be trusted. But yeah, that wraps us up for season 3 of Drafted, y'all. We hope you had as much fun as we did. This is a blast. Sorry, we kind of went out with a whimper more than a bang. Like I said, we did mean to have one more episode. We had a hard time getting a specific guest we wanted wrangled in, who's just a very busy individual. Preston and I are both extremely busy. And I've also just been, to be frank, you know, it's like a little exhausted and just burnt out on things, and it's hard to muster up the energy to like come up with a draft every single week, get a guest every single week, do the show every single week. It just can be a lot, especially with all my streaming and stuff. But yeah, I'll take I'll promote some stuff for me. We of course always support our guests, and I promise. I keep saying I'll do this every episode. I'm going to go back through and in the Discord promote everything that all of our other guests are doing on their own. They're doing all kinds of cool stuff. If you've not checked out the Everyone's a Real Critic podcast that I went on and did with John and Jose, super fun. I think you guys would really enjoy it. I'll post that in the Discord for sure. But yeah, check me out on Twitch. Stream at DAP_sauce. If you don't follow me over there, I think it's super fun. I have a great time over there. Honestly, very similar energy to the show. I think I just with some video games mixed in. I'm really trying to hit 500 followers by the end of the year. I just get to like 451 or 452, so I'm making that push. So if you want to come hang out with me, I know I have a lot of draft listeners over there already. But if you're on Twitch, or even if you're not, and if you want to come check it out, would love to have you over there. Preston probably has some more important things to promote, though. What do you got, Preston?
Register to vote and vote for the good guys, not the bad guys. Pretty simple. I'm gonna completely lose my life to the election for the next couple months. I am so unbelievably thankful that this show has kept me sane and kept me feeling like I'm able to laugh with people and get made fun of and make fun of people. It's just the best. So I really appreciate that, because God, this year has just been bad in terms of my other endeavors. But this always makes it worth it. And I appreciate everybody in here. And I think I told this to Dan at one point. I love our listeners, but the listeners are the excuse that gets the guests to come on. I would probably do the show if nobody paid any attention, just because it makes me happy and I like getting to talk to my friends. And so thank you, all of you, for providing that excuse for people to come on.
It is super fun. We do thank you all so much. Honestly, it's wild that we've done this for 3 seasons now, and that you all still listen. We get like 200, 250 listens per week, which in the grand scheme of the podcast isn't like a crazy amount, but it's kind of crazy to us. Crazy that anyone supports us on Patreon or hangs out with us in the Discord. Y'all are awesome. We appreciate it so much. We hope you enjoyed the season, because we do put, I mean, it is silly, but we do put a lot of time and work into it. And it is a labor of love for sure, but we hope you appreciate it. I think you do. But yeah, we of course will be back. Like I said, for our Patreon supporters, I think we'll have some bonus content. Hopefully the next few weeks, because we do need to have Pat back on to try our drinks and just so Preston knows how awful mint and orange juice will be together. And then we'll do our holiday drafts as well, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, to wrap up the year as well. So it's not totally done until next year, but the end of the regular episodes is now. Thanks so much for listening, guys. We'll talk to y'all next time.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Season 3.